again to Hiker Homily, this time for the week of March 5th. So for the intro, on a personal note, on the 2nd of March, I turned 52 years old. Yep, birthday time, 52. Kind of getting into that old 50 territory. How do you like that? And to celebrate my birthday, I wanted to do, on the day after, I wanted to do the Fremont Peak to Sunol East Bay Regional Park hike. Unfortunately, the weather didn't want to cooperate. There actually were showers and some thunder on that actual day, so didn't do that. But the following day, Sunday, was clear, and the local hiking club that I'm part of was going out to Feather Falls, which I had never been to. That's near Oroville, California, so it's a good distance. It's a little over 2 hours away from my house, so definitely outside the usual simple range that I go for a regular day hike. And it turned into quite a late day. I didn't get home until 10 o'clock. But as far as, trip aside, the actual hike itself was pretty cool. You'll be seeing a hike report on that. Really great trail, amazing falls when you get there. Absolutely really cool to see when you finally get out there. Round trip, it was about a 10. The way we did it, we didn't do the full loop. We did an out and back on the longer part of the trail because when you loop back, it's a little bit shorter. So it ended up being about a 10-mile trip. And when we got there, we noticed it ended up being for about the first mile and a half of the trail, about 2 to 3 inches of snow. How do you like that? But once you got a little further onto the trail, the snow kind of disappeared. Beautiful trail, beautiful area, and the falls were amazing to see. You'll see that on the hiker report. Really cool stuff. So, yep, 52 years old. I had a little 10-mile birthday hike on that weekend. We're going to have to, once again, I'm dancing and dodging. We've got all kinds of stuff going on the weekends now, family things and other stuff. So since the weather didn't cooperate with my Fremont Peak hike, I'm going to have to reschedule that. And now it's looking, I tried to get it for April, but now April's looking like it's filled up. I don't know when I'm going to get that hike in. I really want to do it. I am so excited to do Fremont Peak to Sunol. I don't know why, but it's just something I really want to do. But between weather and schedule of things of life, it's just, boy, conspire against me, I tell you what. But we're going to get it in there eventually, I tell you. But here we go for Hiker Homily. I can't even remember what number this is, either 10 or 11, I'm not sure. But it is for the week of March 5th. Here we go. So for my hiker topic of the week, I am going to talk about substances. Yeah, that's weird, huh? Intoxicants. Let's go with that. Things like that. And for mostly the purpose of this, I'm talking about legal ones because there's no way I would ever give you the whole advice of, yeah, even if it's illegal, just go do it, man. No, if it's illegal, don't do it. It's as simple as that. And if you don't take that advice, that's on you. Whatever. There's believe me, 20-year career, I saw the consequences of people who decided to ignore that, and it's not great, but it's on you. So I'm talking about the legal stuff. And the list of legal stuff is actually growing all of a sudden, because now in California, where I live, we have recreational marijuana. We had medical marijuana for a while. And I'll be the first one. Some of you might even be surprised, knowing, if you know what career I had in the past, you may be surprised to find out that I have no problem with medical marijuana, and I'm not really bothered by recreational marijuana. I don't think it's a gateway into hell or a gateway into more horrible drugs any more than alcohol is, and that's been legal for a long time. And I just don't go for that whole gateway theory. I think it's a bunch of baloney. Different people are different. Some folks have addictive personalities, and it doesn't matter if it's a legal substance or what. It will just lead them into more and more things. It's just how their personality is, and it has nothing to do with the substance. Whether they start with alcohol or pot or jujubes, and that's not a code word. I'm talking about the candy. They'll eventually lead on to other things, and it's just like some people, they get this gambling bug and they're addicted to it. They have personalities that are prone to addiction, and so that's the thing. You just have to watch that. So I don't believe in this whole gateway thing, and so I am not against recreational use of certain types of alcohols and even marijuana. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. But for me, and there's a time and a place for everything, because I am no teetotaler. I will give you 100% transparency that yes, I do drink alcohol on occasion. I've gone wine tasting with friends and family. I have a liquor cabinet in my house, and every once in a while we'll have the occasional drink for fun. Got beer in the fridge, things like that. After working in the yard, sometimes I'll come in and have a cold beer, or when I'm barbecuing or something like that. It's not often, definitely not daily, probably not even weekly, but occasionally I do. So I'm no teetotaler. I haven't done the whole recreational marijuana thing. Not really interested in it, but I'm not against it either. And so from that frame of mind, I will approach this whole subject as a hiker subject. Intoxicants and substances like that on the trail, for me, there is a time and place. And the trail isn't that time and place. It really isn't, and that's just for me. And I mean, I can hear a bunch of people who might eventually see this video scream, "Hike your own hike! You can't tell me what to do!" Everybody calm down. But it is, and I see that kind of crap online too. This subject gets brought up on some of the hiker groups and stuff like that, and there's all kinds of people. I'm going to do what I want, hike my own hike, and I know I already kind of went over the hiker term of what hike your own hike is, but one of these times I'm going to talk about how hike your own hike has become this ridiculously misused notion in parts of the hiker community, that it's just an excuse to absolutely do things that are either illegal, stupid, selfish, whatever, but that's their excuse, because I can hike my own hike. Yeah, I lit that whole tree on fire, hike my own hike, man. Just dumb level things. And that's their excuse for it, because hike your own hike. It's so derpy, it's ridiculous the way some people use that term. So anyway, I am not passing morality on to anybody. I'm not forcing anything on anybody. I am giving my opinion on the subject, and my opinion on the subject is there is a time and a place for recreational substances, be it alcohol, marijuana, or something like that. Again, I'm not even going to get into the illegal stuff, because it's illegal. No, don't do it. It's illegal. Wait till it's legal. And if it never becomes legal, then don't do it. But just the legal stuff, which in California would be alcohol, marijuana, things like that, the place for it is not the hiking trail as far as I'm concerned. And there's various reasons for that. Number one, first and foremost reason is safety. Hiking, and I'm talking about really in the outback, okay? The definite backcountry. You need to have your wits about you. You need to pay attention to what's going on with the weather and how things are changing, because especially like in places like the Sierra Mountains, you will have sudden storms that will come on you like that. And I'm not talking about, oh, it's lightly sprinkling. I'm talking about crashing thunder over your head, pouring rain, and the temperature drops 20 degrees, from what it was. And it suddenly gets really cold and things like that. You need to have your wits about you. You need to know what you're doing. There are places back there where the trails get a little convoluted. Am I taking the right way? You need to have your brain focused on what you're doing and how you're handling things. And alcohol, marijuana, things like that takes away from that focus. It really does. Even once you've gotten to a campsite, I would suggest against doing that kind of stuff. I really would. But that's me. Again, it's a suggestion. It's my opinion. And I have found that the hiker world, well, like any other community, it takes all kinds to build it. And the hiker community has all kinds. And there are some out there that are awesome, down-to-earth people, and others that are just, I'm going to do it my way. I don't give a crap who it affects, and things like that. But that gets on to number two. The second thing about that is not just a safety thing, is it can affect other people. Number one, hand in hand with the safety thing, is if you do get intoxicated at the wrong place on the trail and you end up screwing up and freezing in the night because you did something dumb because you were drunk, you stumbled out of your tent or whatever and passed out or whatever, or you're actually hiking on the trail intoxicated in some way, and you lose your way or something like that, somebody else is going to have to come rescue your dumb ass. And that somebody else may be risking their life. Search and rescue people risk their lives every time they go out to try and pull someone else out of their screw-ups. Okay, so there's that aspect of it. There is also the aspect of other people on the trail, and believe me, I'll be the first one to tell you that not everybody is a mellow, funny drunk. Some people, when they get drunk or intoxicated on substances, turn into real a-holes. They really do. And you don't need that out on the trail in the middle of nowhere. If I'm hiking and I come around a corner and there's some guy who's raging drunk and he's just ready to fight with anybody he sees, verbally or physically, I don't need that headache. And then when they're sober, they're all apologetic. I've seen it many times with my own eyes. Not necessarily on the trail, but I'm just talking about drunk people. That when they're sober, they are the nicest people. I am so sorry that's not me, and blah, 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 and this and that, and excuse. But that was you that poured it down your throat, and you know what it does to you because you're apologizing already. You know you did bad things. You're apologizing and stuff, so don't drink like that. I'm not going to get into the whole alcoholism. I get that that's an addiction. It's a disease. I get that. It has to be treated, and so it's easy to say just don't drink. I get it. But then maybe if you know you have that problem and you're not going to be able to not drink to intoxicated levels, maybe don't go out on the trail. Hate to be harsh, but that's just how it is. And like I say, it's a minor problem. I hardly ever run into really intoxicated people on trail. Every once in a while camping, you're going to get people in their campsite who have poured it on at night and they're a little goofy. And that can come with its own issues and things like that. But it doesn't happen often. But I mean, you see the discussions online, and I wanted to touch on the subject because it does happen. And it's just, there's just things to consider that, you are going to affect other people if you get into a certain intoxicated state. And certain types of substances come with odors and things that may bother others as well. And yeah, you can have the attitude, I don't care if it bothers them, that's their problem. No, it's your problem because you're the one causing it, Yeah, you have the right to, blah, 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 blah. Well, they also have the right to have fun and things like that. And you're getting in the way of that right. So two rights are clashing. What are you going to do? And so, and that just happens that way. So in order, I don't know, just like I say, my opinion, in order to avoid all of that crap, just there's no need for stuff like that on the trail. There isn't. Save it for a 0 day in town, or when you get done in your home and stuff like that. Go ahead, pour one on, toke it up, whatever you want to do, go for it. But out on the actual trail, I just don't think there's a place for it there, and that's just my opinion on that. If you disagree or you have a different idea on that, if you do agree, let me know. If you have any comments on the subject, I just kind of put it out there. As usual, you can get a hold of me in the comments below. You can go back to any other videos, comment on those subjects that they're on. But for this one, you can comment below, get a hold of me on Instagram. You can get a hold of me on Facebook, all under Hiking for Health CA. And you can also send an email to hikingforhealthca@gmail.com if you want to comment on the topic, on the subject, one way or the other. And like I say, if you have a different idea, if you disagree, and you say so respectfully, I got no problem with that. I'll probably even give you a shout out when I do the occasional, hey, I've got comments, here's what they were type of thing. But if you come on, you're just a freaking blah, 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 telling me, I'm just going to ignore you. So you're wasting your time. But if it's just like, I actually think it's okay to have this on the trail because here's how it helps me, and cool, I'd like to hear about it. So there it is, though, for me anyway. Let me know if you think differently or if you care one way or the other. For me anyway, there's really no place on the trail for any kind of substances or intoxicants and things like that. I just think you just need to have your head clear when you're out there. And for me, another third thing, if I can, before I wrap it up, one other third thing is I want to go out there and really just enjoy the situation. There are so many amazing things to see, even little stuff, just like micro things, little critters and stuff that you just catch sight of. It's just incredible to see. And at least for me, some people may not have the problem, and I don't know about marijuana because I've never tried it, but as far as alcohol, sometimes things get a little fuzzy when you tie one on. And all of a sudden, yeah, I could swear that there was some cool stuff I saw yesterday, but I don't know, it's all kind of a blur because when I got into camp, man, You know, and so I just don't. Another reason why I don't do it myself and don't think there's really a place for it is it's just gonna affect your trip in that way. If you're just getting out there just to get out there and you don't give a crap about it, okay, maybe. But I mean, if you really want to have a good experience and really see stuff and remember your neat experience, I can't see alcohol or any kind of intoxicating substance helping in that. So there it is. There, agree or disagree, no big deal. We're all out there. And hopefully I never have to deal with people who disagree and can't handle what they're taking. And that's just how it goes right there. So that's my take on the subject. Okay, I haven't done a hiker term for a couple of hiker homilies, so I'm going to do one. And we're actually going to cover two terms this time, and that is the term zero and Nearo. And this mostly is a term used by exclusively through hikers. Because if you're doing a 1 or 2 day backpacking trip or a day hike, there's no such thing as a Nearo or a zero, really. If you're doing a long trek, usually more than a week and stuff like that, then you start getting into Nearos and maybe even zeros. And so what is that? Well, it's kind of self-explanatory. Maybe you figured it out already, but here it is. A zero is short for 0 day, which means no miles walked on the trail. No miles, you did none. 0 day. Kind of makes sense, right? The only problem is some folks in the hiker community will argue about any damn thing. And even the term zero I have seen argued about. Because there are some folks out there who have decided a 0 day is only if you're in town and don't hike on the trail. If you're actually out on the trail and you just decide, I like camping by this lake, so I'm going to do 1 more day here. You know, my legs are sore, I'm going to rest my knee, whatever the excuse is, I'm going to do just camp here. I'm just going to hang out by this lake all day, and then I'll get back on the trail tomorrow. They don't consider that a zero because you're not in town. Anyway, as far as I am concerned, and again, I am no official dedicator of the terms. As far as I am concerned, and it seems to be the general consensus in the hiking community, little periphery people notwithstanding, the general consensus is you do 0 miles for a day, it's a 0 day. Whether you're in town, whether you're sleeping in your tent on the side of the trail, if you did no miles on the trail that day, it's a 0. A Nearo gets argued about even more because some people want to put an actual limit on it. A Nearo is 10 miles or less. Okay, for some people who are just kind of meandering down the trail, sometimes like me, 10 miles is my whole day. That's what I hike in a normal day sometimes, 10 miles. So I'm doing a Nearo the entire trail? No, not really. That's my full day. For me, a Nearo would be more like 5. Okay? And that's how it is. For some people, they do 25 every day. Okay? A 10 miles would definitely be a Nearo. So would 15. But according to some of the people who want to make it official, 10 or less, if they do a 15-mile day, that would be a Nearo for them, but no, it's not a Nearo because it's over 10. But this person usually does 25 to 30, and they only did 15 today. Nope, not a Nearo because it's over 10. See, that's the thing is there's no real official word. It's just how it is. For me, again, let me repeat that. My opinion. If you personally spend more time off the trail that day than on the trail, regardless of miles, then it's a Nearo. And it doesn't have to be in town, whatever it is. Okay? So if I normally do 25-mile days, and I get up and I walk 15, get into town and get off the trail, the rest of the day I'm only on the trail for a couple of hours and then I hit town and then I stay off of it. That's a Nearo. Yeah, I did 15 miles. That's a lot of miles for some people. But I was only on the trail for a couple of hours and now I'm off of it. It's a Nearo day. Doesn't matter how many miles I walked. I did a Nearo because the rest of the day I spent hanging out in town or in a campsite. Okay? And that's really what it is. And so if I'm mostly walking that day, if I wake up in town at 6 o'clock in the morning, leave town at 6:30 and spend the entire day on the trail, I did not do a Nearo. Now there's some people out there who would say I did do a Nearo because, no, you started in town. Okay? Or say I'm really slow, I'm going up a hill, and I only do 7 miles that day, but it takes me all day to do that 7 miles. I don't consider that a Nearo. I hiked all damn day. Okay, so that was a day of hiking. Yeah, I only made it 7 miles on the trail, but the entire day was spent on the trail hiking. So it's not a Nearo as far as I'm concerned. So you can see where the arguments come in, because there's some people who they need this exact box to fit it in. A Nearo is this. It has to be. No, it doesn't. You can make up your own rules as far as what that is. A Nearo to you is a small amount of miles if you're used to doing a mediocre amount of miles. If you're used to doing a lot of miles, then your Nearo is an even bigger amount. Okay? Or you can take the miles out of it and just how much time did you spend on the trail today. If most of today was on the trail, regardless of how far you walked on it, and I mean, I'm not talking about most of the day you're just standing there on the trail doing this. If you're constantly going up the trail, maybe you're doing it at a very slow pace, but you're moving, then it's not a Nearo day. But if most of your day was spent not doing anything, either hanging out in camp or hanging out in town, then you hit the trail for the last couple hours of the day or the first couple hours of the day or whatever, then it's a Nearo. It just seems to make more sense to me. But that's our hiker term. Zero and Nearo. It's kind of how you, and a lot of people think, oh, who cares? What does it matter? Well, a lot of folks try to plan for these kind of things, that I'm going to take a Nearo in this town or a zero in this area, because they're trying to figure out, especially like I say, this mostly handles people who are doing long through hikes. Like on, for example, the Pacific Crest Trail. You're trying to get to a certain point before a certain time of year, because if you don't make it to Washington at a certain point, you're going to be facing really bad things, and you may even end up not making it to the Canadian border because trails are going to be closed because of the snow. Okay? And so they have to calculate this stuff out. They have to say, I'm going to do this many days on the trail, and then here I'm probably going to need a 0 day to resupply and do this and do that, take a 0. But that means after that I got to do this many days on the trip. So they have to calculate it out to try and get their estimate going. No plan's going to be perfect. They're going to have to alternate now and then. But for the most part, they've got it planned out to try and get to that northern area. And if they're going southbound, there's different calculations, but they still have to calculate it out to try and get to this certain area before a certain time of year, before the trails start to close because of weather and things. And so that's why it does matter to some people. To shorter hikers and segment hikers and stuff like that, it doesn't make much difference what a 0 or a Nearo is, because they don't have that thing. Like if I were to go with my plan and start in the desert and I'm only going to do the first 1,000 miles, I don't have to worry about reaching Washington in a certain amount of time. And so whether this day is a 0 or I take 2 zeros in a row, it doesn't matter, because I'm still going to get done within 3 or 4 months, and I'm going to get done in the Sierras, not up in stuff like that. And I don't have to worry about the snow coming down on me and things like that. So it's mostly a really long trail through hiker term, 0 and Nearo. There you go. Maybe you learned something. And that's going to wrap up Hiker Homily for the week of March 5th. And gosh dang it, I hope you're all doing good out there. I had fun. Finally got out on a decent hike, good 10-mile hike. Got some sore leg muscles from doing the ups and down elevations, getting out there to Feather Falls, but it feels good to have those, because that means I worked them. I'm happy about that kind of soreness. It's not an injury pain. It's a, hey, you worked out pain. That's really cool. And thank you very much. And as always, thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. My subscribership is growing little by little, tiny bit, and that's kind of cool to see. That's neat. But I always appreciate anyone who wants to watch along. Thanks much. And we'll see you, as always, next week.